Welcome everyone to another episode of Unfiltered Brew. I'm your host Nora, and here's my co-host
Kat. Hi everyone.
Today is a really exciting episode because it's basically a backstage pass to Cleveland's film industry. We have two incredible guests with us today, Mike Wendt, the man who knows how to get a production running in Cleveland, and Jack Baun, a screenwriter and former actor who knows what it's like on the other side of the camera. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so
Welcome,
much for
guys.
having me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun.
No, this is going to be good.
So why don't you, Mike, we'll start with you. Why don't
Sure.
you give me the elevator pitch? How did you land in this film space in Cleveland?
Yeah, so I went to school for media production and ended up getting an internship in New York City. So I was interning for the Tribeca Institute. So technically it was for Robert De Niro's company. And at the time I was thinking about staying there longer, but basically a lot of things started happening here in Cleveland. So Spider-Man 3 was actually shooting in downtown, and it got a lot of folks like myself excited and came back and really at this like ground level of the way how the film industry has really evolved here in Cleveland. So I was really just kind of happy to come back and really just kind of immerse myself into it. And while it took a while to really find my footing, there was a lot of times I would go to some of the mixers that the Film Commission puts on, and I felt like I kept having to reintroduce myself to people. If you've ever seen the movie Animal House, there's a scene right at the beginning where the nerds are trying to get in with the frats, and they keep getting introduced to the same like three people in the back corner, and that was kind of my life for a little bit. So I was
back here to Cleveland.
Yeah, so I took a job at a movie theater for a while. So a lot of times people knew I wanted to be in the film industry, but I was working at a movie theater. So I would sometimes feel embarrassed because they're like, hey, like, you want to work in movies and get my damn popcorn or something like that. So, but slowly but surely I started to meet people and eventually got some of my foot properly in the door to be able to work on some of the film productions here. And one of the first big movies I worked on was a movie called Take Shelter that had Michael Shannon and was directed by a director named Jeff Nichols, who has gone on to do quite a few things, but he had a movie last year called The Bike Riders with Elvis, and I can't think of his name right now.
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Austin Butler. Yes. So anyway, that was his like sophomore movie and everything, and then eventually got onto Captain America, The Winter Soldier,
Yeah. They
and
were all
a bunch of
filmed
other things. But I kind of fell backwards into becoming a locations person for the film industry here, and
So when you say location person, like you scout areas for filming?
Yes. So I will go around and scout various places, and I actually love the neighborhood that we're in right here, this Midtown region, because there's a lot of like untapped resources as far as warehouses and buildings that you may not even think about. And a lot of times when you show those to producers and everything, when they come and visit, that's when the creative, juices start flowing, and they think about the possibility of shooting a movie here in Cleveland. Because a lot of times Cleveland may not be directly on their radar until you show them in person. So then I got hired by the Film Commission, and I've been there now for a little over 7 years, and we're getting ready to celebrate the fact that Superman is coming out, which shot in downtown Cleveland last year. So
I saw that preview. It was amazing.
yeah, probably about the 50% of that teaser is the footage
Cleveland.
that was shot in Cleveland.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know exactly like what Film Commission does, can you explain to us?
Yeah, there's a couple different facets, but basically what our main role is to help be an economic driver for the area. So helping to bring projects into town, helping to get those who work in the film industry jobs on that, and then also the educational aspects. So we will do free production assistant workshops, which is the ground level in which you can work on a movie. And then we recently just did a really cool workshop with a producer who grew up here, who is a producer on the show American Dad, one of the Seth MacFarlane shows, and
the producer.
So her name is Diana Ritchie, and she grew up here in Cleveland, and she eventually went out there, started working on Johnny Bravo, and then she she also worked with Hanna-Barbera, but then eventually she met the right people and has been on American Dad for 20 years. So that was an amazing,
That's incredible, yeah.
That was like probably one of my favorite workshops, because you could the people who came out to it were definitely the art kids, even though, I mean, some of them were in probably their 40s and 50s, but it was just, she gave so much great information. So that's some of the stuff that we do that's not as maybe publicized as like a Superman or something, but we really try to just help build up the community here by holding all these free events and everything.
And I do see a lot of the stuff, like if I go on the commission website, I'll see postings for some of this stuff. But is there another way to get more word spread? Like someone who doesn't, let's say, go to the website all the time, is there a way like that you guys can put the word out there more to someone who doesn't even know to go to the website to find out about that?
Yeah, a lot of times, one of the things that I do is I'm like a walking billboard at times for the film commission. So I go to a lot of things in the community. So I go to a lot of film screenings. I will go to parties. I will go to various things. I'll probably wear my film commission shirt, which I feel like I failed to do so today. But I will.
Well, you have a tattoo.
Black is classy.
But yeah, I mean, I'll go around and basically not to like be biblical, but like, kind of preach the gospel of filmmaking here in Cleveland. And because a lot of times people in Ohio don't necessarily think about that. We're a manufacturing state.
Yeah.
We do cars, we do all these things, but we do have so many talented artists, and I love the crew base here. A lot of them, I've worked on these films before going to the film commission. So, and that's how I also got to meet this guy right next to me, Jack, by going to some of the film commission mixers and also the film festival, because like you're like basically a mayor for Playhouse Square, I feel, in some ways.
Playhouse Square is the second largest theater district in America after New York, right?
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it's one of those things where I think just being present in the community, my job is essentially 9 to 5, but a lot of times it's way beyond that. So
I'm always impressed with how you personally get so much done. Like you're always at some event, something that has to do with film, whether you're at a movie or, I mean, every day you probably watch a movie, right? I mean, like for the most part.
Yeah, it's in some regard, like I'll just give you example, like the last couple days, Thursday I had to, I was helping this young couple. They want to do a documentary about the Tina's nightclub, which is if you're a karaoke singer here in Cleveland, that is like one of the best bars. So I helped them get that started. And then Friday night, I'm a part of the board of the Nightlight in Akron. So I was down there to help celebrate their 11th anniversary. And then this morning, even before coming to shoot, to record this, there's a organization I help with that teaches middle school kids how to do filmmaking. So I stopped at the Cedar Lee because I helped them make the file, made sure that it looks good, did this. I'm going to go to the Nightlight again today because we have another event, and then we're showing the shorts that the middle school kids made this afternoon at the Cedar Lee. So that's just,
life of a film industry person. You're always on the go.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife always just sometimes at the start of a weekend, it's just like, okay, let's talk about what your weekend's like. I will see you on Monday. Sometimes is what she said.
That's funny.
So,
Yeah.
what can the Cleveland Film Commission offer to new film talent in Cleveland? Somebody who's really interested getting their foot through that industry
without
Instead
having to move to New York or
LA,
LA.
Yeah. A lot of times the things that we do is show them that we do have a lot of resources here that are free. I will often, say for smaller projects, I will do the scouting, and it's a free charge. A lot of times, a scouting is one of the more expensive things you have to pay for, because you have to account for their mileage, and then also the fact that they're going to have to edit probably hundreds of photos. So a lot of times a scout could be paid, between $500 to $750 a day. So to have those free resources are great. And we'll also do a lot of one-on-ones. So there are times where we'll have people who maybe have moved back from like in LA or in New York, and then they're kind of back to square one, and they don't know exactly who is the people to go to.
Contact,
So
yeah.
I will oftentimes basically we call them strategy sessions, and so I listen to what their needs are and what their interests are, and then I'm like, okay, here's who you need to talk to, boom, boom, boom. And usually people do take those advice, or I will make that direct contact, and then it's great to then eventually see them on set. So I may not hear from them because I know they're busy. Like they took that advice and ran with it. Yeah. So that's a lot of the things that we try to provide as a free service.
Do you guys work with any local universities like Cleveland State or Case Western,
Absolutely.
Tri-C?
Yeah, Tri-C, we work with very closely because they have a program called the Tri-C Production Intensive. So it's a way in which they teach students how to work on a film set using some of the experienced crew here. So that's one of the great programs. So we just spoke with them the other day, myself and Bill, the president. We also work closely with Cleveland State's program, Kent State. I went to Akron, University of Akron, and there's kind of a slight disconnect, so I'm trying to help bridge that gap because I would really love to be able to give back to the university that taught me a lot. So, but that's just something that's like on the table. Of course,
Do they have a film school in Akron?
They don't necessarily have a film school. It's a media production program. So it's a lot of times it's news, radio. They have one of the top student-run radio stations in the country.
Oh, really?
Z88, and it a lot of at its peak, they would get over like 150,000 listeners a day, which is pretty good for
really good
a
for
college
school,
station.
yeah.
And then the TV program, we would win the student Emmys, pretty regularly. So it's one of those things where, I guess I'm just being candid here, but yeah, I wish there was a better relationship.
Well, it's unfiltered. You can be candid.
Yeah.
You can totally be unfiltered here.
So,
Yeah.
you mentioned you're from Akron, so I'm gonna move. I want to ask you I know you're from the Akron, Bath area.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you got into film, because you have an interesting background too, Jack.
Yeah, so I started, since the time I was in high school, we would always make movies like Indiana Baun. My last name is Baun, and I love Indiana Jones, so we were like, let's do Indiana Baun. So we went to like Whips Ledges, and I had the whole get up on the fedora, which was my grandpa's, and I found a leather jacket and put that whole thing on. And we did like probably 3 to 4 different Indiana Baun movies in the Whips Ledges and and I had a pretty cool basement. My parents had this like saloon looking basement, so we shot scenes there, and so ever since high school we'd make a lot of murder mystery movies. Every weekend we were shooting something different, and so then I kind of like was like, okay, well, my parents were like, what's acting? Don't do acting. Do like medical or whatever. So I'm like, all right.
So something my mom would tell me. She's like, "What do you need acting for?"
Right. So I moved to. I went to the University of Cincinnati in biology. I took a biology and pre-med. and I made it through. I made it through. I did good in that, and it was probably maybe in my third year. I was like, I'm gonna start taking acting classes again, or acting classes. I never really took acting classes.
Yeah.
I think I did take one. I took one in high school, and I wasn't good. Because it was like stage, and I was like nervous, and the funny thing is, I had to play, or the character that I was auditioning for some kind of play, and it was a stuttering character, and it was a good thing that it was a stuttering character because I was so nervous I was actually stuttering up on stage. And so anyway, so then I went to, like I said, was Cincinnati, and decided to start taking classes again about I think it was my junior year. And I was like, I kind of want to now just do this. And so I switched gears.
3 years into school.
Yeah, 3.5 years into school. Yeah, I think it was halfway through my junior year. And I was like, well, and I also was in organic chemistry, and I was like, it was a morning class, and I couldn't understand the teacher. I mean, I'll just blame it on that. So I ended up getting a D. It was my only D I've ever had.
You know, my first D was OChem.
Really?
I'm not even kidding.
I mean, it'll do it to you.
Yeah, I had to retake it 3 times.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
No,
I was
Sorry,
terrible
Mom and
at it,
Dad.
too. I was terrible. It was so bad.
Okay.
I just got disinterested in it at that point because my heart started going towards the acting stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And so, but I didn't want, but at that point, I didn't want to like completely switch gears as far as like extending my college and having to go into like an acting major because I didn't have any other classes besides the one I started. But I had a lot of social psychology classes and psychology classes and sociology classes. Those were like kind of my minor or whatever next to biology. So I was like, but that all played into my acting.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I'll just switch and major in that, and I'll keep taking acting classes, and then as soon as I graduate, I'll move out to LA, which I did. So I literally within a week of graduating from Cincy, I packed up the old Honda Civic, and so my buddy who went with me actually, he's like, I'll drive across the country with you, and we'll get set up. And so I think we got to Vegas, and the car was fine at that point. But then it was in June because it was right after we graduated. And I was after we left Vegas, my car started it started overheating in the middle of the desert, right? And it was very hilly, So it was like the engine was overworking, and so. Whatever happened is like it was overheating and I called my dad because he owned a repair shop, a Goodyear tire station sort of thing, but like mechanical stuff as well. So I was like, hey, my car's overheating in the middle of the desert. What should I do? He's like, just blast the heat because you have to release the heat from the engine.
Sure.
So did you when you decided to move across the country, do you have a plan after college? It was just like
Just that I was going to go out there and do acting. Yeah.
Did you know you were just taking your shot then?
Yeah. It was like,
That's what a lot of people do now.
It was like
nothing to lose.
Did you live out of your car for a little bit?
No, so my dad actually had
I can totally see him doing that.
I would.
His little minivan.
Speaking of Vegas, like when we used to go to Vegas, we would just sleep in the car. Like, it's like we're not paying for a hotel. So we would sleep.
You remind me of someone that would be in The Hangover. So if someone made a movie about your life, Jack, tell us what it would be. What it would be called and who would play you?
God. Who would play me? I kind of liken myself to, like, I could see, like, Chris Pratt probably doing a good job, because, like, the same personality, maybe. I think, as far as what the story would be about, I think it would just be like kind of like a movie I'm writing. Really, I've got 2 scripts that I've finished. One's a high school comedy, kind of harkens back to the old iconic 80s comedies, And then the other one, I took a lot of my own experiences, but it's a big time action adventure film. But there's a lot of me in my characters. You know what I mean? It's like. So I think the movie that would be about me would probably be the movie I just wrote, which is called The Fallback Plan: The Adventures of Cleveland Jake, the Chronicle 1, The Fallback Plan.
So
but it's a big like just the way like he just goes about his life and blah 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 blah. But he's way more like he's more on the skids, hopefully, than I am.
But so you're talking about your current screenplays now, but how did you transition? Because I know you were in acting, so tell us about more about your acting roles.
So I turned the heat on in the car. We're getting back to that point, yeah. And so now we got and then we have the window. We had to open the windows. It was about 100 degrees out going through the desert. So it's the heat's blowing and we've got do-rags on our heads. Sweating bullets, finally get to LA. Then I take my car to get it fixed. And then, of course, that costs an arm and a leg there. Anyway, so luckily when I first got there, I mean, after me and my buddy just like hung out and like he had to head back, he flew back home or whatever. I ended up staying at my dad had I didn't know anybody out there. Like I didn't know anything about acting really. I was completely green. The only thing I knew about acting is the stuff we did, in high school and the couple classes I took in.
Who were your role models going into LA?
I would say Harrison Ford.
Okay.
Harrison Ford, Bruce Willis, all kind of the 80s.
George Lucas,
yeah. I mean,
definitely
how
Spielberg.
cute are these couples?
Yeah, Spielberg.
Let's take a second to just appreciate Jack and bringing us these mugs. They're movie mugs, everyone. What do we got? Maverick, E.T. First off, I love E.T. Did you guys know that I was able to say E.T. phone?
That's pretty good.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
You should continue the episode talking.
I said I think it's that or Rocky.
Should
I couldn't remember which was
the entire time? I mean, my voice already scratchy. So.
Definitely in the.
What is that?
Rocky's definitely up there too. But
Jaws.
Jaws. The Jaws. This is my favorite. This is my favorite mug I have. I have a lot of movie mugs, but this is my favorite. I pulled this out in the summer.
Which one's yours?
But it's the
Star
hers
Wars.
is Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. So yeah, Star Wars is what got me in the movies. Probably like a lot of people. I mean, that was like the first movie I ever saw in a theater, and I had all the toys. Of course, I had to have all the toys. And then from that point on, like throughout my life, even the stuff I write now, it's like there's hints of like, especially with the action adventure movie, there's hints of like Temple of Doom. I love obviously Spielberg. I love all his shot, like how he films stuff, how he filmed Jaws. So I'm very into like
cinematography.
I watch the behind the scenes stuff way more than I watch the movies. Although I watch Jaws like probably 5 times a year at least, and then the makings like 20 times. And same with like Temple of Doom or Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, so those guys, all those iconic 80s films are what got me into wanting to do it. I wanted to be. Oh, and I also worked in a movie theater as well. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of how we bonded, like just talking about movies, because even there's a little bit of an age gap, but I was born in '83, but from a very young age, just like my grandparents had HBO, and I just watched so many movies as a kid. So like I really have a fondness for those movies that came out in like the late 70s and 80s.
Do you remember the first time you went to the movie theater, and what movie was it?
So my mom worked at a movie theater on the west side of it's now a Walgreens, but it was called the Riverside Theater. So if I remember correctly, one of the first things I remember seeing was probably, I might have been 3, it was Short Circuit. I remember seeing Short Circuit in the theater. So, but I do, probably one of my fondest memories of seeing a movie and thinking about it actually was the 1978 Superman, because they used to play it on ABC pretty regularly. And there's videos somewhere of me like running around with my little shirt that had a cape on.
Oh, I love that.
So
I did that same thing, and luckily I never jumped off the roof to fly. And I thought about it though. I thought maybe I could, but my parents talked me out of it.
So fast forward, you get to LA, you go through.
Yeah, so I ended up staying at this secretary that my dad had when he used to work for Goodrich, BF Goodrich. He had a secretary that had moved out there with her family, and he's like, I think my old secretary, I forget her name, moved out there, and it was like it was probably a good 30 to 40 minutes north of LA, but it was free.
Sure.
I mean, hey, you gotta take what you get.
Yeah. So I stayed.
At least you're not living in a car.
The funny thing is, they're like, well, how long are you gonna stay? And I was like, probably a week. I'll find a job. But I ended up being there for like 2 months. You know, they were like, "When are you leaving?" But what was cool? They had a son, and he was a few years younger than me, maybe. But he was amazing at piano. So and he played like Barry Manilow, Billy Joel, Neil Diamond, all this stuff. And Scott was in Scotty Gilmore, and he had this cat. He also had a cat that he just called Cat, which is funny because that's what I do now. I call my cat, "Hey, babe." I call her Baby or whatever.
Meow meow.
Yeah,
Her
meow,
name
meow.
is Meow Meow.
Yeah, she looks just like the cat from Meet the
Yes,
Parents.
Meet the Parents.
Especially
Mr.
when Jack
Jeans.
gives her a haircut. She
Yeah.
looks like a poodle.
Well, yeah, I give her the haircut. Yeah. So anyway, I finally got out of their house after they got really sick of me staying there. They're like, "You need to go get a job." So I ended up I started substitute. No, I had a multitude of jobs out there. Like I was one of my
Jack
jobs.
with many hats.
Yeah. Well, one of my jobs was a substitute taught for the private schools out there. So I had like Tom Hanks's kids,
Wow.
Steven Spielberg's kids,
Really?
yeah,
That's amazing.
Dan Aykroyd's kids. So I saw all these people. They would come because it was private, so they would come and pick the kids up. So I had like Andy Garcia. I saw him. You know, like I said, Dan Aykroyd. I saw him. I never saw Spielberg, but I saw his wife pick up the kids. But I never. That's the one actor I didn't see.
Who did you play tennis with?
Tennis?
I know you mentioned.
Football. Oh no,
Or
football.
football, or
Yeah, so every weekend I played football. So that's I'll get to that in a second. so and that was with Alec Baldwin, by the way. But I'm going to go back to that in a second. So yeah, job wise, so one of my jobs was to try to get. I stood on Fifth. Was it Fourth Street or Fifth Street? I'm in Santa Monica. Third Street. I knew it was a low number. But we got 4th Street here in Cleveland. And it's like, so anyway, 3rd Street Promenade. And so I had a bunch of flyers they would give me to give to people, to get them to sign up and come to screenings, you know, for new movies that are coming out before they're in their final cut. So then it would, at the end of the movies, I would always go see the movies too. So I get as many things I would hand out. And if they actually showed up, I would get paid for those people showing up and
Nice.
giving their feedback. And then a
Yeah.
lot of times the director would be there. So I got to hear the directors talk and get the feedback and then adjust the movies based on the feedback and stuff like that. So that was a cool job.
Yeah.
But you're standing in the heat on a corner all day. So that was the only grueling part of it.
So you-
I wasn't in a chicken suit like Brad Pitt. Wait,
was he?
Yeah. So one of his first jobs was I think it was for like, is it a place called El Pollo Loco? Or
I
is
heard
that
he got
it?
engaged.
Yeah, he just got
Brad
engaged.
Pitt.
Yeah, finally.
Yesterday,
yeah.
Wow.
And so that was one. Then I told you I was doing a substitute teaching, and then I started taking classes at a place called the Beverly Hills Playhouse, which I'd taken some other classes at another acting school, but that was the one that really got me into like really understanding acting, because it was scene study and character breakdown, and it was an intensive class. And I took that class for a couple years. It was like a couple times a week, but you're always working on a scene from movies or from plays or whatever the case may be, and then you would showcase them, and then the agents or managers would come and watch. But the one thing, like, and people would always come up to me afterwards and be like, you know, there's like 100 people in the class, but they would come in and be like, I mean, we can't wait till you get up on stage because we just get engaged with you for some reason, you know, and like you just make it so much realer than the other, you know, or go off script or whatever, you know what I mean? Because I remember, yeah.
What was your first movie?
So the first, so then I was also working at a talent agency called Media Artist Group. It was an agency out there. It's a pretty good one. And I was the assistant to the owner. So basically what that means is I would go get bagels and muffins in the morning downstairs, you know. But then
Where are bagels and our muffins? You could be our assistant.
I know. I'm good at that. I should start, bringing in some food for you guys next.
Like Nora said, tell us some of your projects that you've worked on and like some of your favorites.
So yeah, so while I was working at the agency though, they knew I wanted to do acting, so they said, well, bring some headshots. And this is a pretty good agency. It's probably in the top 10, 15 or whatever. So And I became friends with the assistant guy, and the owner. But so they're bring your headshots in, and we'll send you out, see what happens. And so they sent me out on an audition for VR. It's called VR Troopers. It's basically like
Oh my God,
Yep.
yes.
It's a Saban.
It's like
Yes.
Power, it's
Yeah.
basically Power Rangers, right?
Yeah. It's by Saban, which is a big company.
I've heard of that.
Have you seen Power Rangers
Yes.
growing up?
Yeah.
It's very similar, like superhero.
I was pink Power Rangers.
I was.
Just saying.
I don't know.
Either pink or yellow. I was pink or yellow.
So they sent me on that audition.
No, I could totally see you being the blue one.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
I don't remember if these guys had. I guess they had colors. It was a little bit
We
different.
need to get some of that footage.
I have the footage. Yeah, I've
Can
got
we,
it.
on the next episode, dress like Power Rangers?
That'd be a good idea. We should also
we should have come in movie characters.
we
we should do a Halloween episode when we get closer to that, and all come in a different character. It'd be kind of fun. Talk about Halloween movies. We can
I love that.
come back. 'Cause you like Halloween
Scream. Weren't you in
movies, right?
Scream?
I love-
Speaking of
I love
Halloween
horror
movies,
films. Yeah.
were you not in Scream?
I was in Scream too, yeah. But so at this one that they sent me out for, I literally got the first role I ever tried out for in LA, and so it was a guest starring part, and it was a fun show. So I was supposed to be the love interest. I'm always playing someone's love interest of the main girl, right? Of the main girl.
And why is that?
I don't know. So the main girl, and I remember the end scene, the very last scene of the episode. They're like I was supposed to like kind of just have a sweet goodbye or whatever, So I ended up leaning in, and during the take, I leaned in and kissed her on the lips. All right,
Was
the
this
girl.
part of the scene?
No, it just says a sweet goodbye. So I kissed her on the lips, and after they cut, they're like, "Yeah, this is a kids show. You really can't do that."
What did the actress think?
I mean, she went along with it.
Yeah,
She
in the moment,
She ended up
How long
becoming a
was the
very
kiss?
popular. She ended up becoming an Emmy-winning soap opera actress.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Sarah Brown is her name.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I forget which one it was, but anyway.
Immediately, I can think of the theme song to that show. Like,
We are VR.
yeah, virtual reality. Super.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So that was my first.
She's
thing.
a very attractive young lady.
Yeah, Sarah Brown. Yeah. And then after that, I did Scream 2, which was really cool because I got to audition for Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Who's from Cleveland, and is Cleveland or Ohio? I know Ohio.
He's from
I think
Cleveland.
Yeah, Wes
Yeah.
Craven, who's no longer with us, but he did all the the Freddy Krueger movies. What else did he?
I
do
love
back
Freddy
in the
Krueger.
day?
Yeah. Such a classic for Halloween.
Red Eye was one.
Okay.
Last House on the Left.
Okay.
Is probably
big horror
one of his
film
first
guy.
one.
I'm sure everyone knows who Wes
Yeah.
Craven
Yeah.
is. But so he was doing all the Scream movies at the time, and
Red Eye is that movie, plane movie, where
Yeah, Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
And can't think of her
gosh,
name.
how old was he then?
Mean Girls.
The Mean Girl, Rachel McAdams.
Yes, that's it.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was like
That's
20
such a
years
good.
ago.
Yeah.
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 How old
2005.
how old's Cillian Murphy now then?
He must be in his
Maybe close to his 50s.
50s.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so he was young, yeah. But so did the Scream. I got the part in Scream 2, a small scene, but it was a good speaking role. But actually, the funny part is it was. The scene was written. It didn't say what to say. I had a scene with Courtney Cox and David Arquette where they think I'm the
I
killer.
love Courtney Cox.
Yeah, that was really cool because I knew her from Friends,
Yeah.
and they were. That's when Courtney Cox and David Arquette were, I think, married or still together, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a scene where they thought I was the bad guy for a second, and they're like, there he is, or whatever, across the campus, and they come running, and David Arquette jumps over the wall and tackles me, and I'm talking on my cell phone. There's no lines written. So I'm like, so I just came up with my own line. This is what got, and I said I should have got a writer's credit because I basically stood up and said, "Can I help you?" and then we have a little scuffle, and I take my cell phone back and kind of walk away, whatever. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was just cool to be there with like I said, Wes Craven was still directing at that point, so that was cool. And
I mean, Scream became a huge
Oh yeah, phenomenon.
franchise.
I literally watched all
All
of
of them,
Scream.
yeah.
All of
What's
them.
great about Scream is they never.
I
I,
love
don't
it.
think they fall off in quality as they go.
No,
They
no.
were such good
Everyone is
movies.
a
Oh
kind
my
of a
gosh.
different plot, you know. And that's what's so good
Even
about
with
them.
the
and
recent
the
ones, with
twists are so
introduction
great.
of Ghostface's kid, like daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to give away too many spoilers.
Yeah, no,
but
Scream's a great franchise.
It's awesome, yeah.
Great franchise. I even like the one where they went to L.A. Some people don't like that one as well, but I liked it because it was about movie making. They're making
Yes,
movies,
yeah.
slash, or whatever they called it. And I'm thinking,
Yeah. So since you guys are both like part of like the film industry and all that, and so I have a question for both of you. Do you think that Cleveland could become the next mini Hollywood, or do you think we're creating our own identity altogether?
It's a great question. I really do feel that we're on the precipice of
what does
becoming.
precipice mean?
It's like
We gotta dumb it down
right
here.
there at the cusp.
At the cusp.
How about the cusp? We are at the cusp, I believe,
Where the water
of
meets the beach.
of having a lot more production here because the state has been very supportive of it. So we have a pretty good film incentive. We keep pushing for it to become higher, but also we have the opportunity where people are now starting to really build stages, which I know is a big thing that you're into, and your uncle, which sorry, is that too inside baseball? But yeah, no, we are. But you know, a lot of things are really exciting that are growing here, and I think because of COVID, a lot of skilled people who learn the craft here have been coming back, and having those people back here gives just a lot more unique perspectives, and it just shows that we have like a lot of the people who can help elevate us to the next level. I would love your opinion as well about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the reason I came back to Ohio is because my big vision, and I've done nothing about it except for just write some scripts and continue doing a little bit of acting here and there. But my moving back, because I started my whole script journey right when I was about to move back here, and I was like, okay, I want to write here, and I want Ohio to be the place where we can start making films. And this was a while ago. I mean, it's taken off since then, but that was always my vision. And I was like, oh, I want to put a studio in there, and I want to make movies here, and blah, 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 blah. And I think that they've done a great job of doing that now. And even though I had nothing to do with it, it was just something why I wanted to come back here, because we have such diverse landscape, number one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could, places like Barberton still look like they're from the 1950s, or even places around here in Cleveland, or you got the Lake Erie, which could double as an ocean.
Exactly.
Shoreby looks like the Hamptons.
The Hamptons, right?
Yeah.
And so really you could shoot anything here. We got winter, which is great. The fall is my favorite time here in Ohio.
Yes.
So I think we have stuff that other places don't have, especially with Lake Erie.
Yeah.
And we have I think we have a lot of people that would be excited about this place being a next big film hub.
Yeah.
The question is, how do we market Ohio more? I think Ohio in general does a poor job of marketing itself.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to people that don't live in Ohio, and I'm like, I'm from Ohio, they're like, you mean Iowa? Like, what's Ohio? Like literally they've said that to me. And like a lot of people I don't know. I know you guys do the film stuff, but just Ohio in general needs to get a better marketing plan, because we have a great state. We have a very affordable state, and that's the other thing. We can shoot for less than many places.
Jack mentioned tax credits. Can you explain that in like plain English to our listeners?
So in plain English, a lot of different industries have incentives to do their industry in there. So, you think Michigan, probably they have a lot of incentives for Ford or Chevy.
Okay.
It's the same thing. And there are 38 other states that have incentives to bring productions into their respective states. So California, they just announced that they're upping their film incentives to $750 million a year because a lot of production has gone away from Los Angeles. So we are trying to be competitive in that space. So basically what it is like they don't get the money up front. There's a lot of miscommunication about that where people think it's just a Hollywood handout. What they have to do is come here, film the movie, spend money, hire locals, spend money in hotels and car rentals, and then eventually they would get a 30% rebate. That's how it works in Ohio.
Okay.
So it's based on a minimum budget of $300,000.
Okay, that's a decent budget. That's
yeah.
pretty
So
low.
a lot of times, if you think about it, if it's a $10 million movie and all of the spending is done correctly, utilizing Ohio businesses, you would get $3 million back after filming.
That's a great selling point.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a lot of times people then will use that towards potentially a next project, or they're able to pay off some of their investors much sooner than probably expected, because a lot of times when somebody invests, it's going to be a payout, but it might take a while,
So you can use that rebate and literally pay. So if they invested the $10 million, they're only really out 6.6, right?
Exactly.
Because within is it 90 days of wrapping production they get the check?
So after the production is wrapped, they have to do an internal audit. Then they would send in paperwork, and then theoretically 30 to 60 days after that paperwork is done, that's when they can get the rebate check.
And when you say when the production is done, does that mean the physical production or post?
They
post have to be done?
most films, say if it's like a Superman or White Noise, the Netflix movie, they did all of the filming here. They did the post production out of state. So if you're just simply doing the production here, that's when you can start your audit process. But you can maximize the credit, I would say, or the rebate if you also did post here.
So Superman used that incentive then when they filmed here last year?
Yes.
Okay. Was that one of like the selling points to bring him back?
Absolutely. There's a couple factors that brought Superman here. They needed, basically, a lot of it, they knew they were going to shoot it in Atlanta because James Gunn has shot most of his Guardians films there, and they have the sound stages.
Right.
But they also needed practical locations. And one of the great things with Cleveland is that originally when Cleveland was engineered, we had about a 2 million population in the city itself. So the streets are very wide. So you can double for a lot of major metropolitan areas. But also another selling point was that the creators created the character here in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, not many people know
Birthplace of Superman.
Birthplace of Superman,
And a lot of the buildings that are in the comic books are based on certain buildings here. So the AT&T building is the inspiration for the Daily Planet. But the building that they end up using for the Daily Planet is the Leader building, which is where our offices are held. So
why did they do that versus the AT&T building?
Well, because if you look at where the AT&T building is on Huron, basically you go just a little bit to your right, you see Rocket Arena. And if you go a little bit to the left, it's okay. Superior just has this nice stretch where it also leads to the arcade, where they were able to take over all of those storefronts there.
Yeah, and they converted them. I saw that. We saw that last year.
Exactly. And something about Superior looks great on camera.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Huron's just a little bit too
tight, right?
Yes, and also it's just it's kind of like if you ever shoot in Tremont, where sometimes they want to do a period piece. Tremont is great for like certain patches, but then like you'll have old, and then you'll have like this new glass weird facade in the middle, and it kind of breaks up that illusion. So that's why there's been a couple films we lost to Cincinnati, because they have this great neighborhood called Over the Rhine. It's just
historic
1950s New York.
I used to walk down that street. So University of Cincinnati's up on the hill. The downtown's down by the river. And Over the Rhine used to be extremely dangerous. Maybe it still is. But we would walk. So one time we walked from UC down to one of the games. So we walked over the Rhine, and I mean, it's like you might get shot. You know?
Oh my God.
So, but that was during the day. So at night, we're like, we're not walking back up that way. So we literally walked the freeway
get shot.
back.
Yeah. Well, a most recent example, there's this Robert.
But now the Rhine's nice, right?
It is.
Yeah,
it's
they've
really
redone
nice.
it. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they shot the Robert De Niro movie that just came out this year called Alto Nights. They looked at Cleveland, but over the Rhine, it just overwhelmingly looked like 1950s.
Yeah, they did. I've
York.
heard that they did just a total
How was-
redo of that.
How was working on the set of Superman?
Working with them was pretty great. I will say you could just tell that James Gunn and his team really wanted to do justice for Cleveland, and so here
And you feel like they did, right?
yeah, I mean I haven't seen it yet, but I
The
mean just
trailer,
looking at the
right?
trailer, it looks great. But one of the days they invited me to be an extra, so I was really excited about that.
So we're gonna see you then?
I don't know. Like I was kind of close, but I haven't been an
Superman
extra.
didn't pick you up in his arms and fly out.
No. I haven't been an extra for a while, and I learned that extras are very competitive, like
Really?
for getting their like asses in front of the camera. And I was just like happy to be there, but there was one part where like the assistant director was placing us, and so I probably could have been seen, but then like 4 other people were like, oh shit, I see the camera, and they like
be
with
in
like
the
kind of
camera.
yes. But so the scene, if you've seen it in the trailer, it's like when he's submerged into the sidewalk. That was the scene that I will
Yeah.
be at. So
Okay.
maybe you'll see like a glimpse of my pants or something. But
So what do you think is next for Cleveland in the world of film? Like, give us a little bit of a teaser.
so there's a couple projects that we're working with right now that have applied for the tax credit, but one of them is and some of them I can't go into too deeply, but there's a film that we'll be shooting hopefully later this year that is about Richard Nixon, or basically about the young lawyers who went against him to try to get him to resign from the presidency.
The Watergate situation.
Yeah, so it's if you've seen All the President's Men, it's all the things that happen after that film. So we're pretty excited about that one.
Are you allowed to say who?
I will say, like, the director has shot a movie here before.
Okay.
He did a Netflix film called The Last Summer. So
Oh, I've seen that.
yeah, so this is a totally different, like, it's a 180 from that movie,
genre,
which was like a
different
John
genre.
Hughes kind of homage. This is much different. We also have there's a couple action films that we've been working with. There was one film that's actually going to start shooting very soon in July here is called Buddy, and it is this one is it's a really wild story, but basically the producer is Tyler Davidson, who is from here and made Take Shelter, and also did a movie called My Blind Brother with Adam Scott. He did The Land, and then most notably did this movie Emily the Criminal with Aubrey Plaza. That shot in Los Angeles, but this movie is essentially takes place on a TV show much like Barney the Dinosaur, but it is a unicorn, and the children of the cast start going missing. That's all I can say. I cannot say anymore.
It's called Buddy.
Is it a
Buddy.
thriller?
It is. So it's being marketed, I believe, just as a straight up horror film, but I see a lot of comedy in it.
Okay,
Yeah, like
it's a
a
dark
comedy.
comedy. Yeah,
Yes.
dark comedy.
So
Sounds great.
The person who is directing this movie was involved with a Nicolas Cage movie called Mandy. If has anybody seen that? Okay, so Mandy is it's a straight bonkers horror film with Nicolas Cage, but this one
Great.
basically I think has a lot of those elements, and also the director did a lot of things for Adult Swim. One show was called Too Many Cooks, so he's got kind of a twisted sense of humor, I would say. So pretty excited about
That's
that
exciting,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know who's playing Buddy? Is Buddy the name of the unicorn?
Buddy is the name of the unicorn. Okay. So, but as far as the cast, I cannot say who else is in the movie. Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you guys a quick rapid fire questions. So there's a lot of blockbusters coming out this summer. What is one that you'll definitely going to be seeing
Or have seen?
or have seen? Yeah.
You can go first.
Well, I mean, you're right. This is to me, it's one of the best summers of blockbuster films in a long time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So far, I've really enjoyed a lot of what I've seen. Like F1, really kind of that just kind of took me back to. It felt like a '90s movie in a lot of ways,
Very similar
and I
to
mean
the
that in a
Top
good way.
Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
theme.
Maverick.
So I was the question. So yeah, I mean, I've already seen Mission Impossible, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Tom
Mission
Cruise.
Impossible was awesome.
And then F1, I just saw that, amazing. And I think the other ones we have to just say are Superman, obviously,
Right.
Fantastic Four, and
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, yeah.
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 No, and I would also say there's been a lot of really interesting independent films. So like Friendship is an A24 movie, that came out with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd, which was really funny, and very dark and twisted, but
I
funny.
love Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
And there was another movie called Warfare that kind of came and went, but that movie honestly blew me away.
Who's in that?
So it has a couple familiar faces, but it takes place in the Iraq War in 2006.
Oh,
That
really?
one, it's really
Saw a preview
powerful.
of it,
yeah, it's on. It'll be on Max or HBO. I hate calling it Max. It'll be on HBO very soon because they get all the A24 movies now.
What's your favorite genre of film? If you had to pick one.
I mean, gosh, I would say probably. Oh, it's hard to say because I'm kind of a movie fiend. It's like a junkie. I'll watch everything, but the movies that I grew up really loving, like E.T. and everything. So I guess I would like adventure type movies and everything. I feel like we've been lacking something like that for a while. Like I would love to see something. Yeah,
That's why I wrote that one because I'm like, I feel like, I love the Superman stuff. But I was getting tired of the superhero stuff. We didn't have an action hero that just the regular everyday guy could relate to. I'm like, and then they started doing remakes of stuff, and it's like I was like, so I'm just gonna create a new guy that everyone can relate to. Doesn't have any kind of special strengths. If anything, he's got a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah.
But he gets the normal everyday guy that gets thrown into an extraneous circumstance. But make a simple story. We got the hero, the villain, and the damsel in distress, and everybody knows who's the bad guy. And it's kind of like back to Star Wars. There was not a lot of thinking involved. Was fun. It was a fun ride from beginning to end. Lots of fast-paced action, car chases, boat chases. Shootouts, that whole thing. I wanted to put all those fun things into a new action movie, and then the reason I called it The Adventures of Cleveland Jake Chronicle 1 is because I want to make a trilogy of it, and I've already got the other two outlined. Which will evolve the character actually.
Yeah. Well, there's one last one I'll talk about real quick that I really enjoyed this summer, and it kind of got ignored, and it kind of got kicked around. But Ballerina is really a bonkers. I mean, it's a John Wick movie, but it's fun. It's like
that's right.
You kind of leave your head at the he shows up.
He show up.
Bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they probably
I've seen that one,
thought they were. Maybe because I heard they did extensive reshoots, so I think they were like, okay, Keanu, please, we'll pay you $5 million. Just can you come in
Audience
for a
was probably clamoring for it in the screenings.
Yeah.
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 They're like,
but I don't know. I saw it with a buddy, and like we just had a good time.
And then Lilo and Stitch had a huge.
Oh yeah.
I love
I mean,
Lilo and Stitch.
That made more than Mission Impossible. It
Yeah.
made double the amount. It was like crazy. I was never a huge Lilo and Stitch fan because
Really?
his voice always annoyed me. I didn't know what he was
I love
saying.
him.
You know,
That
I
was
love
my
Shrek and
childhood.
some of those, but
I
but
can't,
that
I
was
can't
one
talk
of the
like
ones.
Stitch, but I could talk like E.T. But let me act.
Jack, what's the one movie that you can watch over and over and over and never get sick of?
Empire Strikes Back or Temple of Doom or Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
I'd
say
s-
that's my.
I'd say Raiders, like the first Indiana Jones to me is a perfect film, like untouchable. Watch in Rocky 4. I can watch that.
Oh
over and
yeah,
over.
and that's coming to That's going to be re-released
yes.
this summer. Yeah,
Yes.
on the big screen. So I definitely want to.
I think, unfortunately, is the director's cut, which I don't want to get too nerdy here, but I feel like the OG cut is just it's a
Yeah.
91-minute, just stupid one long montage of a movie, and I love it.
Yeah,
All right, before
It was a lot of montages.
Before we come to the end of the episode, favorite movie quote and go.
I would say
You gotta be quick.
It's not the years, it's the mileage.
Mike,
Oh God,
I have another.
there's so many. I would say from. Oh boy, can you edit this?
no, it's unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
Well, I think from Jaws, I really just like that's one stupid hat, Harry, or what? It's one dumb or some dumb hat, Harry. I think is one of my favorite lines from a movie.
And I'd also say I would say my second one. This is probably my like if you want to put it on my gravestone. Never tell me the odds.
This is from where?
Is
Is this
Han Solo?
Han Solo?
Yeah,
Figured.
from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Also, guys, if you ever see a white Jeep driving around with the Han Solo license plate, just know this is Jack.
And the dice hanging in the rearview mirror.
Okay, if people who are listening want to reach out to you, Mike, to learn more about the Film Commission,
Sure.
Cleveland Film Commission, what's the easiest way to contact you and reach out to you?
clevelandfilm.com. It has my information. It also has some of my coworkers. We're kind of open books. We have these things where you can sign up for one-on-one Zoom or consultation. You can also just find me on social media. I'm pretty much end Mike for a lot of my things because I produced or I directed a documentary about the End radio station. So I usually just put End Mike for
On Instagram.
for now
You
into
have a lot of
eternity.
good stuff on Instagram, so they'll keep you up to date on everything. But if we have just a minute, he's also producing a film. I wanted to mention that Pirate's Life for me.
Yes.
If we have a minute, 'cause-
No, absolutely. So there is this year on my around the time of my birthday, I was like, there's a couple different projects that I've been kind of like percolating, and so I decided like we're gonna go all in. So there's a film that my friend Jessie Lee wrote, and she's going to direct, and I'm going to produce it. But it's called A Pirate's Life for Me. It's not a pirate movie, as there's
I think I saw
some of the
trailer,
actors.
or I think I saw
Some of the
video explaining what the movie's about.
local actors have been reaching out saying like, "Hey, I can play a pirate," and it's not a pirate movie, but
Did Johnny Depp call you?
but no, it's a really heartfelt and funny script. My friend Jessie is just she's always been really great with dialogue and characters, but she was inspired to write it after her father passed away early on in her life, and it's basically about a young woman who is studying to be a marine biologist, and she's working at a fish store. This young girl happens to come in the store without a parent, and they end up going on all these adventures. And I'll kind of leave it at that. But it's a really sweet film, and what our hope is to make this short film and then eventually expand it into a feature.
That sounds amazing.
But yeah, Jessie and I have been working together for now probably like 12 or 13 years. And so some of the things I've directed, some of the things she has.
There's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, and she's just a really sharp writer.
So you guys raised enough money to make the short, is that correct?
Well, yeah, we did a Seed and Spark campaign, so we raised over 16,000. The ideal budget for it is going to be somewhere in the 23 to 24 range to do it right
For the short.
So yeah, we're going after a couple people privately to get that extra money, but. I'm not a huge fan of doing those like crowdsourcing campaigns because you basically have to turn it into a job.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a bunch of people unfollowed me on social media because they're like, all right, stop posting about this. But it's just one of those things. In order to do it right, we want to pay the people proper rates and, we want to have like the most up-to-date gear.
And it'll all be shot here.
Yes, it'll all be shot here. Some of it's going to shoot at Squire's Castle, for example.
That's such a beautiful
Yeah.
area.
Is that haunted?
Yes.
It could be.
Yes,
It could be.
I heard it
Yeah.
was. Yes.
But the fish store that we're eyeing to do it in is this one in Lyndhurst called Bluefish. It's like one of the only specific fish stores in the area.
Cool.
So
You got to be
Yeah.
a location scout as well.
yeah. We're hoping to shoot it in
Two
September.
actresses, here we are.
Heck yeah. Yes, please.
Well, thank you both for being here today.
You're
and
welcome.
hopefully we'll
Thanks
have
for
you
having
Mike
us.
over again once you get this movie produced. We'd
I would
love
love
to hear
to.
more about it.
I think
and-
you should
I like
come
that
on.
Halloween episode idea.
Yeah, we should
Yeah,
definitely do a
I
Halloween
think
episode.
someone you could come on like every couple months and
Yeah.
stuff, like every season,
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
And we
Summer
can bring
blockbusters.
like drinks and like coffees that have like, what's it called? The steam coming out of them.
Right,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
saw that the other day. Someone posted for that haunted restaurant down in.
Oh yeah, down.
Oh,
I-
yes,
I want to
yes.
go to
This
that. I've
cool
been wanting to go to
potion
that every
drink I
year.
wanna try.
Have you been there by the way?
I haven't.
All right,
every ti-
guys,
every
that's
time-
a wrap on today's episode. Thank you guys for
Thanks for
coming
having us.
and
That was
joining
fun.
us and spilling all the tea and the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll link both Mike and Jack's Instagrams so you guys can link up with them to learn more about the Cleveland film industry. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.